Hello, everyone. It's always terrible, like Obi said, coming last. You know, we are the, I guess they did the younger generation in the morning, and then the older guys now. So forgive me if the lights coming off my forehead is blinding anyone. I wasn't always like this, actually. I was pretty much like the young man who was strumming a guitar, right up to the singing, but gone are the days. All right, so I made a slight amendment to this presentation when I was working on it last night. We had a discussion here, and it seemed like we needed to do a little bit more about the technology piece. But I originally titled it this way, Wisdom of Getting Lost, because I wanted to tell you something that nobody wants to hear. And that is that success as an individual, and I think this is the main idea that we want to leave with you, is that your success isn't necessarily dependent on the things that people tell you, particularly not dependent on the things that you feel you're passionate about. I mean, I'm a passionate footballer, but look at me. If you pursue your passion, will it lead you to success? I feel that the answer is, for many people, in fact for most people, the answer is no. And so to find what it is that you'll be successful at, that can make you an outstanding person, you need to travel. And to travel means that you must get lost. And getting lost means that you walk away from the things that you consider to be your comfort zone, the things that you're used to, and then you wander. I can tell you that from experience, because I started many years ago. I want to tell you a little bit about myself in about 3 minutes, and then we can go forward. I spent a number of years on this earth, and where's that person? Right. So it's supposed to show you something, I think, if it goes right. I will abandon this. Okay, so if it comes up onto the screen, I'll tell you, then you can understand what I'm saying. Usually what would happen to all of us is that we're given this impression that when we start life, we're heading somewhere. So you set your goals and then you start trying to achieve those goals. And what you think in your mind is that it's a journey, right? And it's a straight journey. You're going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and eventually you get to where you want to be, and everybody's happy, and we all go home singing. But life's not like that, is it? Life is more like spaghetti. It's more like Indomie, isn't it? So you have things, you go back and forth, you find yourself, sometimes things happen the way that they're supposed to, sometimes they don't. That happened to me. I spent many years in school, and I went to university first of all to study veterinary medicine. I failed after 2 years. I got kicked out of school, and I spent 1 year driving trucks and selling all sorts of things on the streets. I don't want to tell you the details because then you lose respect for me. But you know, so just suffice to say that, you know, those towers that they have of drinks in Obolafo and other such places, you know, so I used to do that kind of stuff. And I learned how to drive a 911, you know, the one that's the Gongoro type, the one that doesn't have power steering. When you want to turn it, you have to do like this. So I sold pepper, I sold drinks, I sold all sorts of things, electronics, all sorts of things, and eventually found my way back to university. When I got back to university, I was studying political science. So what does all that have to do with being the general manager of Microsoft? I'm working across 17 countries, working in a leadership team that managed 53 countries across the continent, and working with some of the smartest people in the world. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. There's nothing that I learned in school, nothing that I was taught in universities that prepared me for the work that I eventually did, and none of that has actually prepared me for the passion. The things that I was passionate about, I did not pursue. I once had a place in school that was like this, where people used to come and have conversations. We used to play music and dance. It was called the Anthill. Sometimes it would be a nightclub, most times it was like an art theater, just a place where people gather and just exchange ideas. I realized that what I liked the most was to exchange ideas, but there's nothing that I was doing that fed into that. I had to work. And so, what is the answer for me? The answer for me was that I figured that every one of us needs to travel. We need to just get lost. You need to experience the world, see as much as you can of the world, interact with as many people as you can, and then come back and ask yourself fundamental questions. Who am I? And what do I have that makes me unique? What are the things that the world needs? And what can I give to the world that nobody else can do better than myself? And when you find that answer, the next step is for you to do the best you can, to be the best, to be so good that no one can ignore you. I think if you find, there's a book by that name, so if you can go out there and look for it, it would be fantastic. What does it really mean? It means that when we travel, and when we leave our comfort zones and we start to experience places, we're going to be challenged in many different ways. We're going to experience things about ourselves that we didn't even know. We're going to find weaknesses and temptations and desires and things that just don't make, we're just not prepared for. And because we're not prepared, we pull back, and sometimes we even give up. The world is full of many people who are unhappy, many people who are unfulfilled, many footballers like me who never got to play football. The reason why the world is filled with those people, I believe, is because they did not get lost. Because it's on that journey that you can find who you really are and what it is that you do better than any other person. And when you find that, that's really what you must double down on. There's no point dreaming that you're going to be a musician. And I'll give you one example. I mean, I can't sing to save my life, but at the age of 8, I was lucky and I cut an album. At the age of 8. But look at me today. I am nowhere close to what it is that I need to be a great musician. But I could have followed that dream and followed that idea and followed that desire. I'll give you another example. If you think about the United States, where every black kid wants to play in either football or basketball. Baseball is for the Hispanics, but football and basketball are for African Americans. So what happens is that everybody competes, but in the entire football league, basketball league, only 254 players make the team. So when you talk about the basketball league in the US, only 254 players make that. America is a country of 300 and something million people. And that means that if you woke up in the morning, decided that your passion was basketball, and you're going to follow that passion, you better be one of those 245, or you're going to be a frustrated person. So, what do? We need to be honest with ourselves about who we are. We need to ask ourselves the questions, because if you don't ask yourself the questions, the world will tell you, you're not the man, you're not the woman. You could decide that I'm a fashion designer, and you're a big fashion designer in Ogui, or in Asata, or in Ebonyi. But is that what you are meant to be? And is that what you can be the very, very best at? There is only one way that you can reach your purpose. There's only one way in which you can fulfill your potential. And that potential is a potential that already has in you every single thing that you need to make it possible, to realize it, is already with you. When you travel, you start to experience, you acquire knowledge, you meet people, you build networks, you develop approaches to things, because you try one thing, it doesn't work, you try something else, it doesn't work. You meet people who have done it before, who help you to see the possibilities in you. And if you're really lucky along that journey, you'll find somebody who's a friend and who's a mentor and who holds your hand and says to you, well, you know what, I love you to bits. I think you're an absolutely fantastic person, but you're one hell of a lousy singer. In fact, when you sing, the frogs in the garden start to respond to your call. And if that person says that to you, you will be crushed. But then you should embrace that truth and then say, well, what do you think I'm really good at? You just tell me, what do I do really well? And then he starts to explain to you, or she starts to explain to you, well, you make us laugh. If you listen to the comedians, people like Alibaba, people like Basket Mouth, they will tell you that they discovered in school that they just make people laugh. I mean, Alibaba will just come out, Basket Mouth will just come out and stand and look at you, and he said, people just start laughing. Why? I mean, how can a guy just walk? Think of that power that this gentleman has. Maybe many babes said he's an ugly man. Maybe he doesn't have, whatever it was, doesn't have money. But the guy just comes out and stands in front of you, and he looks at you like this, and everybody starts laughing. He just has to just look at you for 2 seconds, and you start laughing before he even opens his mouth. Then he takes that discovery of what is already inside of him, and he decides, I'm going to turn this into what I will do for the rest of my life. But it doesn't stop there. He goes beyond that. you will find that the people who have found themselves and found the purpose for which they intended are also the hardest working people you will ever find. Usain Bolt works his ass off. He just wants to run. But he wants to be the fastest person on the planet Earth. And he knows he can't go and drink beer in the night, come out in the morning and make 9 seconds. He works his ass off. The Williams sisters, they were trained from birth. In fact, there's a law that says 10,000 hours is the minimum amount of time that you must put into any one thing to be excellent at it. And that 10,000 hour rule is a rule that has been proven by testing against many people who have done that. They're born with talent, with capacity that they acquire over a period of time and build. But guess what? They work really, really, really hard at that one thing. But most of us are running races in the wrong stadium. Many of us are running 100 meters when we should be running marathon. And some of us are running and looking behind at the other guy who's running, instead of looking ahead to where it is that we're going. And because we're running the wrong race, or we're running in the wrong stadium, what lies ahead of you is a life of unfulfilled potential. And to me, this is the greatest sin on earth. Because we understand this one thing, that life is a gift that none of us deserves. And like any gift, you have to unwrap it to see what's inside it. If you take that gift and you put it on the shelf and look at it every single day, it does nothing for you. The entirety of who you are and what you are is already packaged. And what you need to do is to start to unwrap it. And as you unwrap it, you start to see the things that are inside it that you can actually maximize, you can work on, and you can develop, and you can build, and you can grow. And until you find those things and work on those things, you will always be envious of somebody else. You'll be trying to be somebody other than who you actually are. And you cannot possibly be another person unless you go back into the womb. So get lost. Like me. The slide I wanted to show you shows that I wandered for 20 years. I mean, the children of Israel did how many years? So I guess I still have a bit more time. I was trying to point out on that slide that I still have a little bit more time, you know, because my slide says like 2050. So I wandered for like 20 years just trying to figure this thing out. I did every single thing that you can imagine. I mean, we drank the beer, you know, we crashed the cars, we partied hard, we read the books, we fought. Let nobody mention ladies because I don't want to talk. You know, we don't want to. Okay, let me just say I'm sorry. But you know, we did all the things that young men do and more. I am the third in a family of 7 boys, no girls. And I always say that I'm the least accomplished. Because my brothers have done really incredible things. And I had the option of, you know, getting along with them, working with them, running their race, or choosing mine. But I got lost. I would like to tell you that this was my grand design from the beginning. I just knew when I was 10 that I needed to get lost. I mean, how many of you know you need to get lost? I'm telling you this with the hindsight, right? So I didn't know I needed to get lost. In fact, when I was 10 and they were trying to bring me back to Nigeria, I was kicking and screaming. So they had packed their bags and everybody was ready to go. And they couldn't find me. I had run off. I had gotten lost, but I didn't know it was getting lost. I ran away, I went and hid somewhere, and they were looking for me. So we missed the flight, we missed everything, because actually when they found me, I was like, don't take me back. Yes, as if I knew that this guy was coming, this our president was coming. I just said, no, don't take me there. So, you know, So I came back, and the rest of it was like losing it, because I was very young. I was 16 when I got into university. I just turned 16 when I got into university. I had read too many books like Rampa and all kinds of Zen things that had me totally confused. And I just felt I could do anything. So I did everything and anything that I wanted to. But in the long run, it all led me back to one point where I realized that the power that I had, the strength that I had, the capacity that I had was the capacity to tell stories. And to through those stories to build teams. And through those teams to execute against any objective that I wanted. And with that understanding, having traveled, having experienced, having played, having worked with people, I came to that realization and I started to exercise that power. And in the year 1996, I left my office and started a business. And that business was infographics. Within 4 years, we were the best performing business in Nigeria. In the year 2004, we had won the first award at the global level. We're the only company from Africa that stood on the stage at the Microsoft Worldwide Partner Conference with all the giants. And it was little me with a little Nigerian flag doing like this, you know. And they said, who's this guy? Who's this company? Nobody knew. But we won that award 5 more times after that. And it wasn't me, it was young people. Because when we started the business, we started with young people. We're working with them and building teams. My job was to use my talent and my skills to infuse understanding and capacity into them, to encourage them and to build them and to let them know that they could achieve. And they went out and they achieved. So much so that when they went to client sites, I would tell them, don't tell them you're still in school, because they think that you're 5 years out of school. They were just that good. Every single achievement that I can claim today, I can only claim it because I work through people. And it continues to be so. Today I spend all my time working with young people, helping them to see and to understand their own capacities, and trying to help them to understand that first and foremost, live life, get lost, discover, experience, and come back with the knowledge of who you really are. And then you can rise. You rise and just keep rising. So get lost. Thank you.